Long, long ago, there was a man named Jacob. He lived in the land of Canaan. He had 12 sons, and Joseph was the 11th. When Joseph was 17 years old, this story began. Jacob loved Joseph the most. He made Joseph a beautiful coat. His brothers were very jealous. One night, Joseph had a dream. He and his brothers were binding crops in the field. Suddenly, his bundle stood up, and his brothers' bundles bowed down to it. Joseph told his brothers about the dream. They said, "Do you want to be our king?" From that day on, they hated Joseph even more. Joseph had another dream. This time, the sun, the moon, and 11 stars bowed down to him. When he told it to his father, he rebuked him. "What is this dream? Will your mother and I and your brothers actually come and bow down before you?" And his father quietly thought about the dream. Joseph's brothers were grazing the flocks, far away from home. Jacob said to Joseph, "Go and see if your brothers are doing well." Joseph started right away. A few days later, his brothers saw Joseph coming from far away. They said, "Here comes the dreamer. Let's kill him and say that some wild beasts killed him." Reuben, the eldest brother, heard this and said, "Let's not take his life. Just throw him into a deep pit." He said this to rescue him later. The brothers grabbed Joseph and took off his coat and threw him into a deep pit. It was empty and there was no water in it. Before long, they saw a caravan coming. Judah said, "What will we gain if we kill Joseph? He is our own brother after all." They pulled him out and sold him to the merchants. The brothers killed a goat and dipped Joseph's coat in blood. They came home and showed it to their father. Jacob cried, "This is my son's coat. He was surely torn to pieces by a wild beast." Jacob mourned for Joseph for many, many days. Joseph was taken to Egypt and sold to Potiphar, Pharaoh's official. Joseph worked hard. Everything he did went well because God was with him and blessed him. Potiphar put Joseph in charge of everything. Now 10 years had passed. Joseph became strong and handsome. Potiphar's wife told Joseph to sleep with her. Joseph said, "My master trusts me. You're his wife. How could I do such a thing and sin against God?" She asked him again and again, but Joseph said no. One day, Joseph went into the house to do his work. No one was there except Potiphar's wife. She grabbed Joseph's coat and said, "Come to bed with me." But Joseph ran away. She screamed, "Joseph tried to rape me." When Potiphar came home, his wife showed the coat to him. She said, "That Hebrew slave you brought here, he tried to rape me." Potiphar became very angry and put Joseph in prison. Even in prison, God was with Joseph. God showed him kindness and favor. The prison keeper put him in charge of the prisoners. 2 of Pharaoh's officials were put in prison. They had strange dreams. Joseph saw them and asked, "Why do you look so worried?" The cupbearer said, "I had a dream. I saw a vine with 3 branches. I squeezed the grapes into Pharaoh's cup." Joseph said, "You will be restored after 3 days. When all goes well, please remember me." The baker said, "I had a dream too. 3 baskets of bread were on my head. Birds were eating the bread. Joseph said, "The dream is not good. In 3 days you will die." It was Pharaoh's birthday. The cupbearer was restored to his job. The baker was put to death. Everything happened just as Joseph said, but the cupbearer forgot about Joseph. 2 years later, Pharaoh had a dream. 7 healthy cows came out of the river and grazed. Then 7 thin and ugly cows came out. The ugly cows ate up the healthy cows. Pharaoh woke up. Pharaoh had a second dream. 7 healthy grain grew on the same plant. Then 7 thin grain grew after them. The thin grain swallowed the healthy grain. In the morning, Pharaoh's mind was troubled. He called all the wise men and magicians. No one could explain the dreams. Then the cupbearer remembered Joseph. He told Pharaoh about Joseph. Pharaoh sent for Joseph right away. Joseph took a shower, changed his clothes, and went to Pharaoh. Pharaoh said, "I heard you can explain dreams." Joseph said, "God will give Pharaoh the answer." Pharaoh told Joseph his dreams. Joseph said, "God is showing what will happen. The 7 healthy cows and grain mean 7 good years. The 7 thin cows and grain mean 7 hard years." Joseph went on, "7 good years are coming. After that, 7 hard years will come. God will do it soon." Joseph gave Pharaoh advice. Choose a wise man and put him in charge. Collect grain during the 7 good years. When the 7 hard years come, open the storehouses. This plan will save lives. Pharaoh said, "God has shown all this to you. No one is as wise as you." Joseph was put in charge of all Egypt. From slave to ruler, God's plan came true. Pharaoh put his ring on Joseph's finger and dressed him in fancy royal clothes. He had Joseph ride in a special chariot. People shouted, "Make way!" Everyone bowed down to him. Pharaoh said to Joseph, "No one can act without your word." He gave him a priest's daughter as a wife. When all this happened, Joseph was 30 years old. There were 7 good years. The land produced a lot of food. Joseph collected huge amounts of grain and stored it in the cities. 2 sons were born to Joseph. Then the 7 hard years began. There was famine everywhere. But in Egypt, there was plenty of food. People came and asked Pharaoh for food, and he said, "Go to Joseph." In Canaan, there was a severe famine too. Jacob heard that Egypt had a lot of food. He sent 10 of his sons to buy grain. He did not send Benjamin because he was afraid to lose him. Joseph's brothers came and bowed down to him. Joseph recognized them immediately, but they did not know him. Joseph remembered his dream. Joseph shouted loudly, "You are spies!" The brothers said, "No, we are not spies. We came to buy food. We were 12 brothers from Canaan. The youngest is with our father, and one is no more." Joseph said, "You are spies. If you are not, prove it. One of you must go and bring your youngest brother. Until then, the rest of you will stay here in prison." After 3 days, Joseph said, "Do this, and you will live. One brother will stay in prison. The rest will take grain to your family. But you must bring your youngest brother to me." The brothers said to each other, "We are being punished for our brother. He begged us for his life, but we did not listen." Joseph understood what they were saying, but they did not know it. He turned away and began to weep. Then he had Simeon tied up. Joseph gave orders. Their sacks were filled with grain. Their money was secretly put back. On the way home, the brothers found the money. They turned to each other and trembled. When they returned home, they told Jacob what happened. Jacob said, "Joseph is gone and Simeon is gone. Now you want to take Benjamin. Everything is against me." Reuben said, "I will surely bring Benjamin back. If I fail, you can kill my sons." Jacob said, "No, he will not go. He is the only one left. If harm comes to him, you'll bring me down to the grave in sorrow." Time passed, and the famine became worse in Canaan. Jacob said, "Go buy some food." Judah said, "If you send Benjamin with us, we will go. But if not, we will not go." Jacob said, "Why did you tell him about Benjamin?" The brothers said, "He asked about our family. Is your father still living? Do you have another brother? We just answered his questions." Judah said, "Send Benjamin with me and we will go right now. I will guarantee his safety. If I do not bring him back, I will take the blame forever." At last, Jacob said, "Take the gifts to the man. Take extra money and return the money that was in your sacks. Take Benjamin and go." Jacob prayed, "Please show us mercy. Let Simeon be free. Bring Benjamin back safe." So the brothers took the gifts, the money, and Benjamin, and hurried down to Egypt. When Joseph saw Benjamin with his brothers, he said to his servant, "Take these men to my house. Prepare a meal." The brothers were afraid. They thought it was because of the money. The brothers said to the servant, "We brought the silver back." The servant said, "Don't worry about that. I got the money." Then he brought out Simeon. Joseph came to his house. The brothers gave him the gifts and bowed down. Joseph said, "How is your old father? Is he still living?" They said, "Yes, he is still alive and well." Joseph saw Benjamin. He said, "Is this your youngest brother, the one you told me about?" Then he could not hold his tears, so he ran out of the room and wept. After a while, he came back and said, "Serve the food." Joseph and the brothers were seated at different tables. The brothers had been seated in the order of their ages, from the firstborn to the youngest, and they were very surprised. Joseph gave them food from his table, and Benjamin's portion was 5 times as much as everyone else's. They ate and were happy together.